Michael, could you explain the Policy Council and what it's in charge of when it comes to the blueprint?
Sure. I mean, the Policy Council is, I've always joked and said it's in its infancy with respect to its evolution. It really started with the directors of all the Council of Governments in the Valley, where each of the COGs, their department or their director, met, and spanning from all the way to the base of the Grapevine north to Stockton in the Valley, those 8 Council of Government directors would get together and they try to tackle the regional issues that are impacting the flow of transportation, land use, planning, all the things that are very important to the local COGs. And it was in those discussions that the directors felt that it was time and needed for the elected officials to become engaged in that process. And so this is how the Policy Council came about. Then each of the COGs elected 2 representatives to sit on the San Joaquin Policy Council. We came together several years ago now. I was given the great honor to chair it from the first meeting to date. And it's really an effort to engage the elected officials from the local level to start tackling these regional issues that we're confronted with throughout the entire valley. One of the things I have constantly said throughout this endeavor is that, you know, the pundits, the critics would like us to believe that the politics in Washington, D.C. or in Sacramento are squarely on Republicans versus Democrats. And I believe that the real politics is always played between urban California and rural California. And so that's why it is very important for the rural part of our state, the Great Central Valley, to join together, come as one, and establish one voice with respect to transportation, land use, planning, to tackle these issues so that we can do a better job not only in advocating in Sacramento, but doing, more importantly, the planning that's necessary to have a community that's thriving and that's responsible going into the future.
So the Policy Council was responsible after the Blueprint Regional Advisory Council made a recommendation and a public meeting made a recommendation. You were, as the chair, and your colleagues on the Policy Council made the decision on which of the scenarios would be adopted.
That's right.
So you did that over a year ago, and now we're in the implementation phase. So how does the Policy Council work with the implementation phase of this?
This is a very difficult component of it because plans are just that. They're pieces of paper that too often get stuck in binders and sit on shelves. And it's the implementation of the plans which is critical and is important. And at each of the COGs, more local level, you've got your general plan, amendments, updates that they're doing. And so what we're attempting to do is set the stage or set the direction from a regional approach. What was the consensus? It wasn't a unanimous vote, as you know. There was a lot of strong voices that felt that perhaps we should have adopted A or another standard. And so it's the tricky part is how do we take this direction that's set forth by the Policy Council, apply it then to your local counties and municipalities to then adopt it in their general plan updates. Because that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where you have the impact in terms of growing and planning. And it's a very contentious issue because one of the most important roles that local governments have, particularly at the county level and municipalities, is land use. And so to talk about it from a regional perspective where it transcends county lines becomes very much a jurisdictional issue. No, that's my job, not your job. And if you're going to dictate what I do, then you're taking away some of my authority. And as you know, it's the law today. With SB 375 passing, it is something that we must do if we don't want to be penalized moving forward in the future. And so you've seen this shift with respect, a paradigm shift, if you will, from a mindset of thinking from a very, very local perspective to more of a regional approach. That was successfully done in the planning phase. And I'm hoping that now through its implementation stage to get down into the nitty-gritty of those general plan updates, that we see it come to fruition. And there it falls on the responsibility of the elected officials to drive staff to do it and to see to it that we're planning in concert with what the entire valley felt was by a majority the direction that we ought to go.
Thank you very much for your perspective on the San Joaquin Valley Blueprint.
I appreciate it. Thank you.